simply a mirage produced by the chemicals in your brain? How do you know that?
How do I know? It'd be the same way that I don't know that I'm a pink elephant in the sky who causes people to masturbate on Sundays. Like in that same context, I couldn't know if I was that either. Like some kind of, if you're trying to appeal to some kind of ultimate knowledge and some kind of weird hypothetical where I wouldn't be having real experiences. I mean, what's the point of this? What are you getting at? And how would you? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sure. When you make that type of statements of the vulgarity and things like that, you have to be logically consistent. That wouldn't be logically consistent. That's a contradiction.
So you claim, so you assert. I don't care about your assertions.
Okay. So again, about the question, is it possible God could exist, the one from the Bible? And you're saying
we're not going to repeat. Okay, yeah, I'm saying it no.
Oh, no. Okay, let's move on then. And again, I mean, how do you know the chemicals in your brain, the atheism that you're experiencing? Is that just a neuron firing off?
I'm agnostic, once again. I'm agnostic when it comes to a God concept. I think you keep misrepresenting my position here so far.
Okay, I do apologize about that. But is the agnosticism that you hold, is that similar to a chemical reaction that's responding similar to how a dog would never know 2 + 2 is 4?
I don't know. That's a weird question. I'm not quite understanding. You're complete. Okay. Yeah. Wait. Okay. Let me help you. Maybe I can help clarify. Do you believe that I have chemical reactions in my brain?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do those chemical reactions create thoughts?
Yes, they do.
Okay. So basically, you're asking, does my brain have chemical reactions that create thoughts and ideas?
That's not what I'm asking.
Well, I mean, okay. So I'm sorry. What's your question?
Does the atheist or the agnostic worldview, are you saying that humans came from Darwinian evolution by natural selection? Is that your position?
Here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'll say is that that's what the majority of scientists believe. I don't talk about evolution because I don't have a degree in it. I'm not studied up on it, to be honest with you, to be frank. So I don't usually make arguments for evolution. I will say that 99.9% of the scientists support it. People who have dedicated their whole entire lives to it. The only small majority of people who don't tend to be Christian young earth creationists. So that should tell you something.
Maybe. Okay, so back to the dog analogy, though. If the dog was sick and you were taken to the vet, does the dog have knowledge of it taking it to the vet?
I know when my dog, I know if I were, there's ways that they would, right? Like, so I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example real quick, right? So we didn't often drive anywhere with one of my dogs that I had in the past. In fact, the very few times we would ever drive with them, I mean, we'd go for walks and I'd take them outside and everything. But the only times we really go for a car ride would be most of the time when we were going to the vet. So he would get the feeling, I could tell by his reaction, like sometimes he wouldn't want to go, particularly in the car, because he knew where we were going. So dogs do have some intelligence on that level, but equating a human mind to a dog isn't really a fair analogy.
Well, my point being was that on the evolutionary standpoint, that the dog sees us as a God figure, but cannot understand math. How we cannot understand
I disagree. I disagree that they see us as a God figure. I don't know how you would have that knowledge to how they perceive us.
Would the dog's life be real if he never knew math? Would humans be real if we never knew God?
What do you mean by real?
Just like the dog's life. Is the dog's life real in a sense that he's only relying on instinct and whatever? You can't tell a dog 2 + 2 is 4. Like you can't tell. I can't.
Of course. Well, dogs don't understand math. Yeah.
Exactly.
What's your point?
Yeah. My point being that you don't understand God, similar to the dog's life.
Well, that's your claim and your assertion. Right. But once again, that's an empty assertion that you can't back up.
Well, actually, it's very simply to back up. If you're saying that atheism is on the Darwinian evolution, there's no God, there's no meaning, there's no purpose, there's no objective moral values. Did we come from evolution?
So what? Let's say there is none of those things. What's the point?
You're lost in a sea of cultural moral relativism. There is no.
So there's no problem with moral relativism. I'm sorry, I don't see the problem. What's the issue with moral relativism?
So if you don't have a problem with moral relativism, what do you would consider that's absolutely morally wrong?
I don't believe in absolute morally wrong things. Do you have a way to demonstrate that something could be absolutely morally wrong?
Sure. If like, for example, if somebody kidnapped someone you love and they said the only way we're going to release that loved one if you kill 3 babies. Now, how would that, with no chance of going to jail or prison? So how would that be wrong if God does not exist? Wouldn't you have to kill those?
It would be wrong to the individual based on subjective morals, their own opinions and values. So I believe, just to be clear, and I'm surprised you're not aware of. Do you understand what subjective morality is?
Yeah, objective morality.
No, not objective, subjective.
Yeah, objective and subjective. I got it.
Okay, and you know anti-moral realism. You know what that is?
Anti-moral realism? No, I don't.
Okay, so it doesn't. Basically, anti-moral realists wouldn't believe in moral facts. Basically, morals are opinions. So you're an anti-moral realist. You believe that morals are actually a fact, regardless of human minds. Basically, you believe something would be wrong even if there were no human beings on the planet. That's the typical Christian view. Maybe you have something different, but I'm going to imagine as a Christian, you probably fall into that category. So when you ask me, is something really wrong or a moral fact? I don't believe in moral facts. I believe morality is based on human beings. I think we create moral, how would I say this? We create a moral system within ourselves based through things like emotion, empathy. Sometimes it's just taught to you, unfortunately, because it doesn't work out that well sometimes. And I'm making that judgment based on my own opinion, by the way. Anyways, go ahead.
I was going to say, if I could just clarify something about the argument, because I think it's apt to misunderstanding. I'm not arguing that the belief in God is necessary to do good or live a moral life. That's not what I'm saying.
Sure.
The argument is that it has nothing to do about the belief in God. It has to do with that without God, there isn't any absolute standard of right and wrong, and therefore.
Sure. So what?
Well, then then what we call moral values are just spins off of sociobiological evolution. There is everything is subjective, relative.
Sure, but what's the point?
The point.
Yes, it's possible that is the case, right? Listen, I'm always looking for evidence. I'm willing to change my opinion. I'm willing to believe in moral facts if it can be demonstrated to me. So far, not one Christian has been able to demonstrate a single moral fact to me in the context in which they believe as Christians. So far, all I keep hearing you do is regurgitate what a subjective morality is and how there's no absolute morals. Okay, so what's the point?
Okay, the point I was going to say, I was going to clarify what you just said, that on the sociobiological point of view, that kind of altruistic behavior of just a selfish gene wanting to perpetuate itself is the same kind of behavior you see in a troop of baboons, where you see what looks like altruistic behavior, but even in an ant heap where fighter ants will sacrifice themselves for the good of the heap. So my point is that that's all atheistic or agnostic view is on moral values are. They're just you're unwilling to accept the idea that anything exists beyond nature. Well, that's just presupposing atheism is true without me.
No, it's not presupposing. No. First of all, I'm agnostic once again when it comes to God concepts, atheistic towards your particular religion. I'm not presupposing anything, not in that sense. I'm actually coming to conclusions based on the evidence. And then once again, you just repeat it yourself about what morals would be. There's no absolute morals. Like I said, can you demonstrate an absolute moral exists? You were going to try to do that, but I didn't quite hear that argument yet.
Okay, you asked me to demonstrate absolute morals exist.
Yes.
Now, I'll answer that question. I'll respond to that question with another question of my own. When objective moral values exist, now you're probably not going to like the answer, but they do not exist in the concept of just moral relativism. Things can be only subjective, deterministic, and relative from Darwinian evolution by natural selection. So when you ask me what's objective or what's objectively true, things that are objectively wrong, for example, that I can't be wrong about would be murder, rape, suicide, things like, I don't know if you consider those things absolutely wrong to save a loved one.
Okay, let me just clarify what you just said again now. You just once again said that, yes, obviously subjective morals can't be absolute, right? That doesn't actually demonstrate it. Doesn't demonstrate that absolute morals exist, right? You just once again repeated examples of what you believe to be absolute morals. That's all you did. You just repeated what you believe to be absolutely morally wrong. Then you pointed out that subjective morals can't be absolute. Well, yeah, no shit. That's true. So I'm waiting for that moment where you show me like it's absolutely wrong to murder somebody. Can you demonstrate that that's absolutely wrong in the context you use that as a Christian, besides just claiming it?
Well, what I'm saying, in the absence of God, there is no right or wrong on that subject.
Yes, I know. You keep saying the same thing over, but that doesn't actually show that there. I'm asking from your worldview. You believe in the God. Demonstrate that absolute morals exist.
I can show you through how God exists through objective standards. In the absence of God, there is no absolute standard when you ask me that question. So
no shit, there's no absolute standard. Like
yeah.
I've told you that 3 times. Why do you keep repeating yourself? You're getting frustrating now. Like to listen to. Like I thought you were going to be this killer debater from all the shit you talk in this email. Like this amazing, like come and put Skylar fiction in his place. But all you can do is repeat like the same mantra. Demonstrate that it's objectively, absolutely. You know what? Actually, here, let me give you an example. Is it absolutely wrong if one has the ability to feed a starving child and one chooses not to? Is that absolutely morally wrong?
To feed a starving child or not to?
If one had the ability to feed a starving child and you had the means to feed the starving child and you chose not to, would that be absolutely morally wrong?
It depends how you mean. If objective moral values don't exist, like you're saying, that
no, I'm talking from within your worldview. Your worldview, not mine. I'm asking your perspective from an absolute morality. Can you answer the question?
Yeah, I mean, are you asking me what is morally wrong in?
Yes, from your perspective, from a Christian's perspective. Yes.
Let's see here.
Is it? I'm going to repeat the question one more time to give you a second to think about it. Sure. Is it absolutely morally wrong under the Christian worldview, to clarify, if one had the ability to feed a starving child and one chose not to do it, would that be absolutely morally wrong?
If one chose not to feed a starving child, it would not be morally wrong.
It wouldn't be morally wrong not to feed a starving child. So if starving child was in front of you, you had the food to feed it, it wouldn't be absolutely wrong for you to feed that child.
You could walk away. It wouldn't be absolutely wrong. But that's
okay. Okay, so would it be wrong?
Your question is actually either a knowledge.
It's not. I'm asking you. Okay, is it wrong to do that? So it's not immoral to feed to not feed a starving child. That's not immoral.
It's only immoral if God exists and there's objective standards.
Oh my God, you are so incredibly inept. You understand the words that are coming out of my mouth, my man?
Yeah,
like what is going on? Like we're talking about your Christian perspective. We're not saying from you. Well, only if God exists. Yes, I'm accepting it to do an internal critique right now of your religion. So yes, we're going to accept for the premise your God exists and absolute morals exist, right? So is it absolutely wrong not to feed a starving child if you had the ability to feed that starving child?
It wouldn't be any more wrong than you not to kill a baby to save your family. That would be my response to that.
Wait a minute. So it would be moral to kill a baby to save your family? Is that what you just said to me?
That's what I'm saying. That would be objective for me. It's wrong to kill an innocent child to save your family. That's objective from God.
Okay, so it would be okay. So is it absolutely just simple yes or no, my man? Is it absolutely wrong not to feed a starving child?
Not if you don't kill it. That's not morally right. That's not a moral question.
So helping the poor and the homeless to eat and starving people isn't a moral question. That's what you're telling me. Even though Jesus told you to go feed the poor numerous times.
Well, I'm not Jesus. So So I don't claim to walk around and pretend I'm him.
Dr. Josh, I'm trying, audience, I'm trying to be a better man. I'm trying not to, but I can't deal. It's hard. All right, bro, you got a question because you're not going to get it. How about, is it absolutely wrong? And I'm not even going to do this because you're not going to understand the question again. Can you tell me what makes something absolutely morally wrong?
Like taking something that's innocent to save a loved one. That's
no. What about that? Okay. What about that action makes it absolutely, like, what makes something right or wrong under your moral system?
What makes it something morally right or wrong in my moral system?
Yes.
Okay. What makes something morally right or wrong in the moral system of Christianity is the fact that we simply have an objective standard that we don't hurt innocent people to save a loved one. For example, let's say someone kidnapped my girlfriend.
Get rid of the specific example that you're thinking of. I'm asking a more general question. What makes something right or wrong? What makes X right or makes X wrong?
The fact that it exists in the first place.
Okay, so, and how does it exist? Explain its existence to me. And what do you mean? In what context does it exist?
When you see, to me, that's a contradiction in terms, because as an agnostic, you're asking a Christian how objective.
I'm asking you a question, and now you're dodging it, and not going back to my worldview.
No,
man, where is this master debater that I was going to talk to tonight?
No,
was barely literate in the email. Like,
come on, man.
I'm sorry, you talked a lot of. Should I read the email to the audience and let them see like what you wrote me? Because right now you're kind of flopping all over the place, and I don't mean to be rude, but I mean, it's really frustrating to talk to you because you're not understanding questions. Well, like you don't call yourself an apologist. Is all I'm saying. Go ahead. You can ask me a question. It would probably be better if you asked the questions.
Okay, thank you. Well, sometimes when you assert that there's no God, or as an agnostic you're not sure, the only problem with that is that the agnostic cannot make that claim. In order to state that there's no God and he does not exist, the agnostic would have to know all alleged proofs that exist in order to state there's no proof for God's existence.
Can I just?
Oh, please, Dr. Josh. Yeah. Go ahead, Dr. Josh.
So I just wanted to say that we have 122 people watching.
Thank you, folks.
If you haven't hit that like button, but I'm confused. Look, I'm in no way good at philosophy, but I didn't understand the last thing that you said. So I don't think that I would ever make the claim as an agnostic that no gods exist. So maybe could you just for me, could you clarify what you mean by that? Because it seems like when you said it would be like impossible or nonsensical, I can't remember how you said it, for the agnostic to say no God exists, because I don't think that I would say that. I'm sorry, I'll go back and mute.
You can run it back again. I have no problem running it back again. What I'm saying is that when the atheist or agnostic make the knowledge claim that God does not exist, there is no God, that is not a logical position to hold, since to know that there is no God means that the person would have to know all things to know that there is no God. So since he cannot know all things, if he did, he would be God. So he cannot logically make that claim. Now, if I can finish, I believe that there is no God. That's the claim. Now
no, it's not what the claim is. Do you know what agnostic means?
Sure, if I can just finish for a second.
Sure, but you're going on a tangent about a position that I don't hold at this point.
That's fine, but again, when you say that you're an agnostic and you say that the God may exist or may not exist, it still goes back on the corresponding nature of atheism and agnosticism. So to say, I believe that there is no God is a conscious choice. But then on what do you base your choice? On evidence, logic, faith, or the combination of three? So if evidence, then what positive evidence is there that disproves God's existence? So I'm looking for arguments for atheism. You're asking me for Christian answers, but I'm looking for arguments for atheism to be true. I don't know if you have evidence for atheism or Gnosticism to be true. There can be no such evidence, since evidence is physical in nature. Evidence is an effect or result of something in reality. So how can evidence disprove the existence of God, who is by definition the creator of reality and separate from it? So on the atheistic view and on the naturalistic worldview and the agnostic worldview, everything is basically ultimately destined to the destruction and heat death of the universe. As the universe expands, it grows colder and colder. Its energy is used up, and eventually all the stars will burn out. All the matter will collapse into dead stars, into black holes, and there'll be no life, no heat, no light, only the corpses and dead stars and galaxies expanding into endless darkness. So that's why the Bible says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despite the wisdom and instruction. And then in Colossians 2:2, it says that Christ himself is all the hidden treasures of wisdom and knowledge. And you might scoff at that, which is fine, but again, are you making, when you respond to my answers, is that just a chemical reaction that's responding to another chemical reaction? Does that produce proper logical inference? That would be my question to you as an agnostic. If you're saying that
you're right, hold on, you're rambling now at this point. You're echoing. You gotta fix your mic.
Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
I can, but I can hear myself when you talk. There you go. All right, you're rambling at this point into a lot of different things. So let's deal with the first things. Agnosticism, agnostic, means that you don't know if there's a God. So there's no claim that there isn't a God. So that kind of should stop the whole very first. That's why I try to cut you off. It's kind of, you went into a lot of nonsense that didn't have to do with anything. Now, if you want to hear, if you want me to, and I've already kind of began to outline and lay out why I think that I'm an atheist towards your particular God. I claim your God doesn't exist by simply doing an internal critique, and I could show you the moral contradictions.
Can I respond to that real fast?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
On the one hand, you want to make value judgments like God was wrong, and
no, I don't. I didn't say God was wrong once. Not a once have I said that in this conversation, or in pretty much any other conversation.
Okay, well, and forgive me for saying that, but if you're saying maybe God was wrong, or maybe saying slavery was
no, I didn't say any of that. So I don't know why you're bringing it up.
Well, if I can finish,
yeah, but
when the agnostic makes that, I'm just attacking agnosticism, not specifically yourself. So I'm attacking only your position. And so when agnostics make that claim that God was wrong to do this to Job, that slavery was abhorrent.
But who's doing that? I'm not doing that. Why are you talking about some stranger who's an agnostic that does that? Like, aren't you talking to me right now, the person in front of you, through your screen?
You are agnostic, aren't you not?
Yes, but just because it'd be like me saying, hey, this Christian over here goes and murders their family, therefore Christians murder their families. Like, that's ridiculous. Talk to me in my specific positions. Did I at any point make a moral judgment on God in this conversation so far?
Well, that's a contradiction in terms. You have to be logically consistent. That would be my point.
Okay, we're going to get back on point now because you're rambling in all different kind of directions.
I was trying to finish my.
I don't know. No, we're gonna go and I'm going to answer your question now because you're going into 5 different things here. So
let's pause just because I think there's a super chat. I just wanted to.
Oh yeah, you want to read it out for us, Dr. Josh? You got it. I can't find. Oh, there it is.
I can read it in my my Ken Hovind voice, Dr. Ken Hovind.
Please do it. Let's do the Ken Hovind.
It's Mr. Cook Jr. Call out this child's constant straw man and non sequitur. He can't defend his argument. He thinks that disproving yours makes him right. That's what he does when he teaches high school science for 15 years.
My God, we're going to do this every time now. It's going to happen every time. All right.
May I respond to that?
No, you're not going to respond to that because there's nothing to respond to. Right
well,
at this point. I mean, dude. First of all, I haven't even made an argument. I just corrected you on your agnostic thing. It's not fallacious. I don't even know if you even know what the word fallacious probably means at this point. We're going to address the agnosticism. Once again, agnostic means that I don't know if there's a God. Okay. Now, if I made any moral judgments in this conversation against you on any of the things, weirdly enough, you listed like slavery or these other things that we haven't even gotten into. Has that happened?
Right. Okay.
Okay. So it hasn't happened. Okay, good. I'll just take that as a yes. All right. So what is your specific question so I can answer it? Because you lost me in your long diatribe of rambling here.
Okay. Well, my next illustration here is I can show you all the evidence of an invisible white dragon named Arcturus, and I use him to fly through black holes in outer space with Stephen Hawking. Now,
good for you. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that goes really well for you.
Now, the evidence I provide is because you're only suppressing the knowledge of Arcturus, except Arcturus, Allah, Krishna, Buddha did not die for your sins. He did not die for a cross and did not rise from the dead. So they do not reveal anything to you. So you already know because Jesus Christ is the only one who exists. Now, I just don't want to get confused.
Where was the question? I'm sorry. Where's the question at here? You went into a whole nother topic here. I want to just point out, like, it was so, like, pointing that, like, just because there's a God doesn't mean that God has to reveal things to you. That's your Christian interpretation of what a God is like. You're taking all your Christian beliefs and values and trying to push them on everybody and then making this ultimate statement like this is the correct kind of God, when it's just an empty blank assertion on your part.
Well, again, because you have to acknowledge the fact that you deny him, and you cannot start with God unless you recognize your denial of him.
No, I don't. Wait, first of all, what's wrong with me denying God? Explain that to me.
Oh, because you know God exists. That's why.
Oh, so it's just an empty claim once again that I know God exists. Okay, that's a really good argument. Let me tell you, that works. Does that ever convince anybody when you make that argument to them, or is it just a tactic to get you out of really having a heartfelt and honest conversation?
Well, when you say the word honesty, are you appealing to an absolute standard that you cannot account for?
You don't need to have an absolute standard in order to talk about honesty.
So
we have a definition. Do you know what the definition of truth is? Would you like me to give that to you? Can we not apply definitions?
You're using it in a subjective sense. Like,
no, I'm not. No. I just believe morals. I believe in facts and reality. I only believe morality is not facts and reality. So when morals are subjective, they're concepts of our human mind. It doesn't mean that I don't believe in an objective reality, matter, facts that are demonstratable. You have a complete misunderstanding of the topic.
Well, okay. Well, your position of agnosticism just shows the ramifications that follow when you deny personal God. There's a moral first cause. The first one is very difficult to.
Okay, demonstrate that there's a moral first cause. Can you demonstrate that for me?
But before you do, sorry, let me just break in and read the super chat. Is this okay that I do this, Skylar?
Oh no, please do it. I need to pay attention, and I feel bad because a lot of people did it last night, and I missed them because of the conversation. But please go ahead.
So this is Math Magic Pagan for £2. I don't know exactly what this is. It should be Nappa, not Goku.
Oh, that's his character on there. It's a Dragon Ball Z thing.
Sorry, I'm old.
I don't know it either. I'm not a Dragon Ball Z fan. All right, man. So we're going to go back to. Can you demonstrate that there was a moral foundation or this initial moral push, whatever the words you used were? Are you just going to assume it and then expect me to accept it?
No, I'm not. That's not the assumption. I'm just saying, as an agnostic, the ramifications do follow when you deny a personal God, who's a moral first.
No, I don't. First, that's not agnosticism. What you just said there, it's not a denial of God. Agnosticism says you don't know if there's a God.
Well, that's the problem. You cannot assume a definition is true and argue from that definition.
What are you talking about? Wait a minute. Definitions are made by human beings. Words have usages, not meanings. So, like, I'm sorry. All words are subjective. They're just ways that we try to describe reality with. Now, I'm not sure what you're actually getting at this point.
Well, when you say they're subjective, that just shows that you're presupposing what you're saying is true and inventing these.
True by what standard?
Well, when you ask me for what standard, I don't know the standard of the standard.
You said they're true, but no, I'm asking you. You said they're true by they're not. That I'm assuming that they're true. Well, how would I look at words and understand the standard in order so we can judge whether a word is? It's so lost in your nonsense at this point.
Like, no, not at all. Because you're appealing to an absolute standard of truth.
No, I'm not. No, false assumption. Prove that. How am I? I'm sorry, that's just not true.
Oh, so you don't believe in an absolute standard of truth?
An absolute standard of what? What standard are you appealing to?
The words that are coming out of your own mouth. Is that
no? What, I'm sorry. I don't mean what absolute standard are you referring to?
When you ask me that, is that just your brain from another chemical reaction firing?
Okay, you already admitted that brains have chemical reactions and thoughts come from chemical reactions. So simply just saying, does your brain come up with questions and thoughts and ideas seems kind of silly, my friend, because by definition, that's what a brain does. Do you not believe that brains come up with thoughts, ideas? Is that's not something you believe within your worldview?
That's not the point. We all have reason in our.
Okay, so what is the point?
The point is that in the absence of God, how do you know that anything that you're appealing to isn't just subjective? And you're just lost in a sea of cultural moral relativism.
Okay. Oh my God.
And then
lost in a sea of moral cultural relativism.
As far as you know, that there's no such thing as truth. Everything is subjective, just like the statement.
I'm sorry. No, right, that's Skylar, not true.
You think you chew on that for a minute.
Please. You got something else? We have another super chat already?
Yeah, Mr. Cook Jr. You talked all that crap via email to be so dumb?
I don't know.
This is why we're getting super chats, because of Josh's voice. Now, bear in mind, this is not Josh's words towards you. This is just him reading the super chats.
Yeah, I'm just reading
pay. Hey, Christians, if you want to pay to have Dr. Josh talk some smack about me, you can do that, and he'll do it. I give him full permission. Also, not that I need to give him permission. Yeah.
Frustrated Atheist asked me to ask if this is okay. Inform him that there are people in the chat that claim no gods exist. That he should talk to us and not y'all who don't claim that.
So I can respond to that. That when the agnostic or atheists assert that there is no God.
Okay, hold on. That's not what agnostics do. That is not what you keep saying that, and that is not what agnostics do. They do not assert there is no God. Why do you keep saying that?
How would you differentiate yourself from an atheist? How would you differentiate yourself?
Okay. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Let me explain. As an agnostic, I don't know if there's a God. As if I were an atheist, I would say there is no God. I would claim it.
That is completely compatible with agnosticism and atheism.
No, it's not. Why do you think there's two different terms for
it? That is compatible with those terms.
Can we go on to something else? Because at this point, I really don't know like what you're getting at. You're kind of incoherent. I'd like to talk about something we can at least get a dialogue going on here.
Sure. Well, like I said, the comment that you made earlier, I was going to respond before I got cut off. Is that
which comment was that? What was that about?
It was the problem of your assertion that you may or may not know that God exists. And I'm asking, is it possible? Can you be wrong? Can the Christian God exist? Never mind the contradictions in the Bible. I'm saying.
Well, I have to. That would be how I would demonstrate that the Christian God exists, by stepping into your worldview and accepting it. So do you want to do that? Can we do that together? I don't know if you'll be able to follow because you couldn't follow the moral question, but I'm willing to do it with you. But I bet you don't want to actually talk about the Bible. You just want to talk precept.
No, go ahead. Ask me a question.
Okay. Is it absolutely morally wrong to own a human being as property?
Not if you're an agnostic. Not if you're an agnostic. It's not.
Now, once again, I'm asking you, the Christian, right? When I ask you a question, hold on. When I ask you the question, I'm asking you to respond from your Christian worldview. So, is it wrong? And you can refer to yourself. It can be wrong, right? So, is it absolutely wrong to own a human being as property?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then your God tells people they can commit absolutely immoral actions.
That's a contradiction in terms.
It's not a contradiction in terms.
It is. You have to be logically consistent. That's not being logically consistent.
Well, what's not logically consistent about that? Your God in Leviticus 25:44 says that you can own people as property for life. And then you just told me that it would be absolutely wrong to own human beings as property. So how would God allow people to commit immoral actions?
Can I respond to that, please? Because
I'm waiting.
This is how you know you're lying. Because if you were fair, you'd bring up the fact that the Hebrew word for slave has multiple meanings and translations.
What is the Hebrew word for slave? Do you know it?
Sure. According to the Strong Concordance, it's the word ebed. And it's also
eved.
Thank you. It's also translated as servant. So that just goes back to your lack of knowledge of the word slavery in the Bible.
I want to put Dr. Josh over here speaks. Dr. Josh speaks Hebrew, and we can go over it in Hebrew. What the chapter, right?
He just admitted that.
Do you know Hebrew?
I don't speak Hebrew. No.
Okay. How much research have you done into it?
I know enough to know Hebrew a little bit. Sure.
Okay. So the part where it says property, not the slave word, because I didn't use the word slave. I don't know if you realize that when I actually originally asked the question. I never used the word slave. You added the word slave into it. I said, is it absolutely wrong to own a human being as property?
Only if they were indentured servitude to pay off a debt. That's
hold on. What do you, I mean, it would be wrong if what is the indentured servitude part? I didn't say anything about indentured servitude. I said owning a person as property.
Okay, I'm gonna let me just please finish. The Bible is neither pro-slavery nor anti-slavery. The laws in the books of Deuteronomy 15:12 through 15, Ephesians.
It's Leviticus 25.
I'm not referring to that passage at the moment.
Well, that's the one I'm referring to. That's the one I quoted.
Okay, then how those slaves were treated, and sometimes in the past, when the Bible was first written, people would sell themselves into indentured servitude to pay off a debt.
Sure, that's for the Israelites. Yes,
yeah,
that's the Hebrews. What we're talking about is foreign slaves mentioned in Leviticus 25.
Well, okay.
Are you familiar? Have you read Leviticus 25?
Leviticus 25 has to do with the slavery you're suggesting, right? That's more.
That wasn't my question. Have you read Leviticus? Have you read the chapter of Leviticus?
I don't know the verse off the top of my head.
No, that wasn't my question. Have you read the chapter of Leviticus?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Have you read the whole Bible?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad you have. Okay. So here we're going to go ahead and read the scripture for you.
Before we do,
please go ahead.
Sorry, there's just another super chat for $5
Oh my
from
gosh.
Genius Tracks.
Oh my God.
Dr. Josh, he knows more. He knows so much Hebrew, he's browner than Jesus. Good show, guys.
Oh, no, it gets better. Man, why did it take so long for me to learn this talent of yours, Dr. Josh? Why did it take so long? Man, I am just so happy tonight. All right, let's pull it up. Leviticus 25, verses 44 through 46. However, you may purchase male or female slaves from among the foreigners who live among you. You may also purchase the children of such resident foreigners, including those who have been born in your land. You may treat them as your property, passing them on to your children as permanent inheritance. You may treat your slaves like this, but the people of Israel, your relatives, must never be treated this way. So if you're ever interested, you could go read even further into this, and you could read above that is where it starts about indentured servitude, the thing you're talking about. And then when he gets to foreign slaves, this is talking about good old-fashioned owning people as property, keeping them for life, purchasing the children of them, and passing them on in permanent inheritance.
If those people that were in slavery, if they were committing evil acts of sacrificing children to false gods, then they deserve to be put in slavery. These people were people that were committing evil deeds.
Okay, so sorry.
Please save me, because I'm
just a couple of things. I think we need to. It sounds like you're saying that you recognize that Leviticus 25, 44 to 46 is speaking about chattel slavery. Yes. Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
My point is not the reason why chattel slavery in the verses of those passages. The point is that those people were committing evil acts of hurting innocent children and sinning and rebelling against God, and that's why they were slaves.
Okay, so just and I'll mute in a second. I just want to make sure we're all straight here. Just so that everybody listening knows, there are essentially two types. We've talked about this before, Skylar, but there are essentially
needs to be said again. Yeah,
there's two types of slavery in the Hebrew Bible, and it's consistent with the rest of the ancient Near East. There's Hebrew slavery, which generally ends up being indentured servitude. That's slavery. It's not always that. You can be born into slavery. Women can be sold as slave wives, but generally speaking,
the point that
hold on. Let Dr. Josh finish, please. He's so patient.
I promise, Skyout, I won't say much more.
No, it's all right. It's all right. No, please, go ahead. This is where we bring the scholar in here to talk about this stuff. That's why he's here. Please go ahead.
I appreciate that. Thanks. So foreign slaves, though, are those that end up being chattel slaves. Now, there's an awful lot of discussion and debate about passages like Exodus 21. Does it refer strictly to debt slaves? Does it refer to chattel slaves? Is it a mix of both? Or do all the laws just speak generally about slaves? You're absolutely right, Skyout. The word eved there is sort of a general term, and it depends on context, right? It depends on.
Yeah, it does.
It depends contextually. Does the eved here mean a debt slave? Does the eved here mean chattel slavery? It's the reason that Exodus 21 is difficult to sort of nail down.
Well, that's why I brought those other verses of Deuteronomy 15 that actually talks about slavery as well, in Ephesians 6:9, Colossians 4:1. They all have a different context of the word term slavery. Yeah,
certainly. I would probably, for the moment, leave the New Testament passages out of this discussion because of, it's just a different text. But nonetheless, so for these purposes, I think the thing that I would want to camp on for just a second is what I think might be missing here in the conversation that Skylar is saying and that I'm saying. I don't think that when we talk about the reality, for example, of slavery in the Old Testament, it's not to say, look how wicked people in the Old Testament were, right? That's not the point. Because I don't think we would make that argument.
Well,
what we're trying to say is
hold on. Let Dr. Josh finish, please.
What we're trying to say, and when I say we, I mean Skylar and I, because I know this about Skylar. What we're trying to say is that morality is relative, right? So in the Old Testament period, in the time that the Covenant Code or the Holiness Code or the Deuteronomistic laws were written and then later edited, slavery, these types of slavery were the norm, right? They were the status quo. And so I think the reason that this comes up and is so important, and I promise this will be it. This is all I'll say, is that if morality is rooted in God's nature, then there becomes this sort of quandary, because if God is immutable and his nature is immutable, then you seem to have things in the Old Testament, even in the New Testament, where God is condoning, even commanding things that by our standards today would be considered immoral.
I was going to clarify that if I could. That goes back.
Just give me 5 more seconds, and then I promise I'll mute and I'll stop. I appreciate everybody's patience. But I think that's really the crux here, right? So my argument would be, and I think Skylar's argument here would be, the understanding of Christianity that says, yes, there are, if there's a divine being that the people that wrote the Old and New Testaments, and the apocryphal books and whatever else you want to count, those people that wrote those texts, that edited those texts, they were interacting with the divine that Christianity holds to in general, then fine. Like, I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. I think that the problem ends up being when you say there are these objective moral facts, and I don't even like using the word objective, of these moral facts that exist outside of us that are rooted in God's nature. Right. And that these things are timeless. Then you end up having to go to these texts that show things that by 21st century standards are immoral, and you have to defend them in a way that says, well, it's not as bad as what we think it was because of X, Y, and Z. And what you end up, not you, maybe in particular, but that argument ends up saying exactly what we're saying, that morality is relative. It's relative to the period. Okay, sorry.
Well, thank you for saying that. I was going to say it doesn't reflect today's practice. When you do proper hermeneutics and proper exegesis, the definition and explanation of those passages correspond to the original audience. It doesn't reflect today's practice. I definitely agree with you on your point on that one.
I think the point is we were talking about whether morals are absolute. If something's absolute, it means that it's never changing, right? So you admitted this was chattel slavery. Now, you can't. You did say that, actually.
Yeah, I did say it was chattel slavery, but I also said there's different contexts of the word ebed in Hebrew as
but that particular context in which the word servant, slave is being used is chattel slavery.
Well, I looked at the Bible in a whole context and harmonized the scriptures.
No, I understand. It's not really addressing what I'm saying to you. Okay, so it's not absolutely wrong to have chattel slavery.
According to that original audience at the time, that does not reflect today's practice. It is not wrong. It is just a reflection of what, in a manifestation of the evil nature inside man. I mean,
it's relative, and the morals are relative to the time period.
It's like today, for example. Like, I hear it all the time. Where was God when my sister died? Where was God when my dad had cancer? That's a reflection and manifestation of what Jesus did on the cross, and that pain and suffering reflects back to conform to the image of Christ. Mm-hmm. So that's why we have people that experience. We have a fallen nature. We live in a wicked world. We rebel against God. So like that's would be my response, and how the Bible doesn't sugarcoat it. It shows. Do
you understand what I'm saying? I don't think you understand what I'm arguing here. That's the problem. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm really trying to, so we could just have it back and forth, and we could really understand. Do you understand what my argument is?
You're saying that the passage that in Leviticus is chattel slavery, and you believe it's morally wrong.
You agreed it was. Okay, so you already agreed that specific kind of slavery is being mentioned there. Okay, now is that particular moral, is that absolutely wrong or right?
It's absolutely wrong.
Okay, so God told his Israelite people that they could commit absolutely immorally wrong actions.
Yeah, but what is the context?
So, but that's when you say something's absolute, context is irrelevant. You understand that? That's what absolute means. That it means in any context, it would be wrong.
Okay, for example, wouldn't you, if someone kidnaps someone you love?
Okay, my morals are subjective, so asking me anything about my morals is irrelevant right now. So yes, my morals may change depending on the situation, but that's not absolute. When you say something's absolute, that means it doesn't matter what the context is. It's always wrong. Like the easiest example is lying. under biblical theology. The reason why it is immoral to lie is because it's against God's nature to lie. It isn't his nature to actually tell lies. So therefore, it's absolutely wrong to lie in every situation. So when we point out an example of a certain kind of slavery and you tell me it's absolutely wrong, but then God condones it, God's condoning absolutely morally wrong behavior.
Like I said, it doesn't reflect today's practice. It corresponds to the original audience at that time.
It doesn't matter. That's what it doesn't matter if it reflects. That's yes. Then you're arguing moral relativism. It's based on the time period. You're agreeing with my position.
No, not at all.
You just said it depends. Well, this isn't what we practice today. Well, of course not. That because nowadays we realize in our own personal views that we shouldn't own people as property.
When you look at the Bible in its whole context, there's different contexts of the word servant, the word slave. In that context of Leviticus, the God is simply looking at these people as wicked, evil, rebellious people that committed a sin, that committed some sort of slavery. It doesn't diminish the fact that God is good. Or anything.
God condones slavery, and God condones immoral actions.
Those immoral actions are from the evil of man and Satan.
It's fine, but God condones immoral actions.
What do you know about Satan?
I'm asking a question that's a yes or no question. Does God condone immoral actions?
According to them being wicked, they would have to be.
So yes, and then you're explaining. So yes or no, then you can explain why. Does God condone immoral actions?
Only if those people were committing evil.
Yes or no, and you can explain just yes or no answer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So God goes against his own very nature and tells people, allows them to do things that are sinful. This makes no absolute sense.
Because that's
does he not want people to? I thought the goal, like does he want people to sin? Yes or no? Of
course not.
Okay, then why would he allow them to?
He didn't. Those people had the freedom to sin on their own. They took those people against God's will. That God didn't want those people to be slaves.
Well, then why did he say you could do it? Why did he tell them you could do it? He told them not to do other things. He told you not to have eat bacon and pork. He told you if men with crushed testicles can't go to church. He said women. He made women basically property in the Old Testament. He did all these things, but then he didn't draw the line when it came to owning people's property.
Well, you see, you're looking at God in the context of just good. See, when you differentiate between what's good and bad, you have to posit a moral law, and that moral law constitutes a moral law.
I'm talking about his moral law. I'm doing an
wait,
internal.
Sorry,
critique.
can I just because
I gotta get a drink anyway. Please take that out.
I just want to ask for some clarification. Yeah. So, okay, if we all, and again, not a philosopher, so just take it as it stands. If we all agree that the game of chess only allows the king to move one space in most contexts, we all agree on that. That becomes something outside of us, right? That becomes a rule outside of us. But we've generated it. Why is it that a moral system, an ethical system that a particular culture, a particular group creates and agrees to, and that becomes objective in that sense, why is it that we can't generate that moral and ethical system?
Either because without God, I find no point of reference, no ultimate reference for morality, except for self-referencing. So there's
aren't we the reference though? I mean, like, aren't we as a group? We say, because this is what we see, right? I mean, in certain contexts, even in the same country, even in the same state, but certainly in the world and throughout time, certain groups of people have said these behaviors are acceptable and these other behaviors are not. And yet at different periods, like what we're talking about here in the Bible, slavery is fine. It's expected. But today we would say, no, it's not. It's because we as a culture are generating as a group those ideas and saying, this is our ethical system. This is what we're going to hold ourselves to. Why is it that it's not okay for us to be the source of that as opposed to some outside supernatural source?
Sure. So when you ask me that question, when you abandon God and moral reasoning, it's a contradiction in terms. You're moving away from that self-reference. That is presupposing that what you're saying is true without no evidence.
Why am I moving away? Sorry. Why am I moving away from, or how am I moving away from moral reasoning?
Because you don't have any transcendent anchor. Everything is just, you're at a sea of moral, cultural relativism.
But sorry, if that's the case, which, I mean, I agree it probably is.
But when you abandon God and moral reasoning, you move away from that self-referencing, and that is presupposing what you're saying is true without any good argument.
Right, but if you and I, let's just, and I'm really trying to engage with you here because I don't actually do a lot of this. So if you and I sit down and agree, we're not going to use profanity when we go to church next Sunday, right? We're going to agree. We can sit here on the stream and use profanity, but when we go into church, we're not going to do that. Or when we go to this elementary school, we're not going to do that. Why is it that you and I can't agree, or you and I and Skylar and or 50 other people or 1,000 other people, we're not going to do this in this particular context and have that be a sufficiently grounded source? Why can't we do that?
Let's see here. I'm not too sure how you account for the logical absolutes to be true. I don't know if you view logical absolutes, therefore God, or God logically absolutes, but to me, moral laws are given by God, and just like the laws of physics, they do not change. Immoral behavior is not justified by circumstances. So,
right. So let's take that. Let's assume for a second, for the sake of argument, that there is no God, okay. Right? What is it that you would say precludes a group of individuals who have the ability to think rationally? Sure. What is it that precludes us from coming to terms and coming to an agreement amongst ourselves on those things that we're deeming profitable, beneficial, right, however we want to describe that, moral, and things that are wrong, not beneficial, immoral? What precludes that?
Well, when you say that there's objective and subjective, I'm not too sure how you define those terms. I define objective, non-binding from independent people, and then subjective would be binding from people that claim to be subjective, like the term monster would be a relative term. Everyone has their interpretation of the word monster is. So my response to that, without God, I find no point of ultimate reference for morality except for self-referencing. There is no ultimate point of reference of meaning.
Why is that bad? Why can't you be your reference?
Because everything becomes meaningless without God. Everything.
Well, I don't know that that's true, because if the three of us, well, here, like in this room, if the three of us say, hey, we're gonna go in turn. I'm gonna talk, and then Skyout's gonna talk, and then Skylar's gonna talk, and then we're gonna go in that, and then after 3 rotations, we're gonna go backwards the other direction. And if we don't do that, we're gonna consider that to be rude and wrong and immoral. Why is that not possible?
I'm not too sure in what sense that's like an explanation or question. I'm not too sure what basis you make the value judgment. When the person, like when Skylar said, car is broken, I'll take it to the mechanic. But I don't know what basis does he make the value judgment to say my car is broken. Does he wait till the wheels fall off? Like when is the basis to make the value judgment to take it into the mechanic? That would be the standard that I'm saying. He said the standard is to take it to the mechanic. But what is the basis to make that value judgment to decide when do you take it? Because if God exists, then there isn't any absolute standard of right and wrong. I mean, animals are not.
All right, so hold on. Sorry, because I feel like, let me see if I can answer that question. I would say common usage, right? I mean, how we determine as a group of people based on our experiences, or, I mean, this is how semantics works. This is how language works. This is how meaning, and I'm not a philosopher of meaning or anything, but I mean, this is how we determine meaning of things. So if commonly the check engine light comes on, we would classify that as broken. If an anvil falls on our car, we would classify that as broken. But it just depends on the context, right? So if he says, hey, my car's broken, I got to take it to the shop, it could mean any number of things. It just depends on the context. I just don't see why that, unless I'm misunderstanding you, which is entirely possible.
saw a guy driving with an anvil on his car, what would you think of him?
If a guy dropped an anvil in the car?
He started to drive it. He said, my car's just fine. What would you think of him?
What would I think of him?
Because he said everyone says that if I see a check engine light, I see an anvil fall on my car, we all know we got to get it checked. But I don't know the value basis when you make that value judgment. I've seen people drive their cars with the wheels are falling off.
Yeah.
So I don't know. When you see a check engine light, not all people go get it checked. They'll just leave it on.
But isn't that evidence against some objective standard?
Well, no, that would be cultural and relativism, where everything is just subjective, relative, and deterministic, where if everything just feels that way, if you feel like getting your car done and feel like getting it fixed, and it's just relative. Let's say your car's perfectly fine, and then you just believe that it's broken. I don't know what value basis would you use to make that value judgment. If you're just worried about the car being broken, there's nothing wrong with it, but you believe the check engine light is on. That would be a huge problem with the value judgment. That's what I have to say to agnosticism.
But I mean, it sounds like you're describing reality.
Of course. Reality assumes truth. Truth assumes and presupposes logic. Logic presupposes God. So
wait. Well, I'm sorry. I didn't. That one I don't follow. Sorry. But I mean, like, it doesn't seem like a God is necessary in that equation, right? I mean, if I have the ability to think, and I have the ability through my experiences to make determinations on my own value judgments, and the value judgments probably are driven by my cultural norms and my cultural experiences, and my interacting with my culture in that way allows me to align with other value judgments. I mean, other values that people in my surroundings have, and that ends up being sort of a beneficial system that we're operating in. I don't see why that necessitates a deity.
If I can just interject there.
Please.
When you say that, it doesn't necessarily involve a deity. Whenever you see intelligibility, you always assume and reasonably conclude that there's a mind behind it. The rational intelligibility of the universe, for example. And God is existential. He's transcendent. He has intelligibility and intelligence. So there's three ways of looking at reality: totally objective, totally subjective, which becomes self-defeating in most cases, or semi-transcendent, where you can make meaningful statements about reality without making comprehensive statements. Now, let me clarify that again, because there is no amount of concrete physical reality that is self-explanatory. Anytime you see intelligibility, you assume intelligence behind it. So that's what I mean by the rational intelligibility of the universe, because God is existential, he's transcendent, there's intelligibility and intelligence. That's why when I say something like, for example, and it dawned on me when I was looking at that which I was looking at was because of which I was able to look at it. That what struck me in awe was because of which I was capable of being awe-stricken. That semi-transcendent intelligibility and intelligence. So when you study history in the very biblical narrative, you see the Word becoming flesh, the Son of God coming to save that which was lost. So what do I say? There is no amount of concrete physical reality that is self-explanatory. Anytime you see intelligibility, you assume intelligence behind it. You see the entrance to God himself. And if you're speaking who is God, he is the personal, moral, intelligent first cause who I can relate to. And to me, I can make the argument of God's existence and show why Christ is that revelation. Now, you can take centuries and years of philosophy and try to answer that, but I've done it in a few minutes where there's absolute reason behind it that I personally believe.
This is all just empty assertions. I'm sorry. Like in your bottom line is you can claim whatever you want. You can claim that there's this intelligent design or whatever there is, but that's all you have is an empty claim that is undemonstratable. Just like when I asked you to demonstrate that objective moral facts exist, you were unable to do so. All you could do is talk about everything being relative, which even if talking about somebody else's worldview doesn't demonstrate your actual own, even if mine was incorrect. It doesn't mean that your particular worldview is correct. There's other ways. I mean, if I could just simply go back to my deist position, where God created the laws of logic, everything that exists within the universe is the way it is now, and I don't need your Christian God to explain it. So if you want to get around to actually demonstrating that this objective moral standard of yours exists, that would be fantastic. If not, you just have empty claims and assertions that we can't really do much with.
Well, again, I mean, I don't know if there's any absolute standard, right or wrong. You said there is no absolute standard on your position.
Well, yes, that's correct. Yep.
Okay. My response is that it's the same thing on the agnostic view of how animals are not moral agents.
You're not demonstrating your claim right now. All you're doing is now referring back to what the agnostic view is. Talking about agnostics or atheists isn't a demonstration of your actual claim. Can you demonstrate objective moral facts exist, please?
Sure. The moral laws are given by God, and like the laws of physics, they don't change. And the moral behaviors,
except for the slavery thing. The slavery thing changed, though.
Yeah, because it doesn't reflect current practices of today. That has to do.
You don't even realize what you're saying. Like, I'm sorry. You just said moral laws don't change, and then you said, "Well, yeah, it changed because of the practices today."
That's people. People change.
Yeah, but God gave those laws,
and Satan changed them. That's my point.
So, what? How did Satan change the slavery law?
Wouldn't he have changed them for the good then? If we don't do slavery anymore,
Satan changed for the good. No, I don't.
Well, I know. Sorry. So, if God gave, sorry, I'm going to mute. But if God gave slavery, and then Satan changed it, and we don't have slavery anymore, it seems like.
No, he didn't change the law. He changed the hearts of men to rebel against God. That is against slavery, evil, and sin. Satan was the one to tell people to put in slavery and camps and concentration.
No. That was God. It was God who said that condoned slavery. It wasn't Satan.
Yeah, exactly. It was God who said that in a response to the rebellion from Satan from the other tribes and cultures that were sacrificing their children to other cultures.
I feel like we should be precise here. Which cultures are you referring to?
Oh, if you know, during the time of the plagues, when Pharaoh and then the ancient Egyptians, they were believing in false gods like Horus, Isis, and Jeb, and all the false gods from the ancient Egyptians. And then if you look at the 10 plagues, God cursed all those people because they were sacrificing children and innocent children to false gods. I mean, you can look up all the false gods in the Old Testament. There's over 8,000 of them, actually. And that's the reason why most of those ancient Egyptians and the Pharaoh was enslaving those Israelites. God said, yeah, go kill them because that's the righteous thing you could do right now because they're sacrificing their children to false demons and false gods. I mean, it wouldn't make any sense not to cleanse them.
Okay, so sorry. You've mentioned the Egyptians. Are there other nations?
Of course, there's the ancient Greeks, the ancient Samaritans, ancient Babylonians. That is profoundly different from the God of the Bible. The ancient Greeks.
Sorry, Scott. I'm not trying to interrupt you.
No.
Just specifically about you're saying that there are nations that were wicked, that were sacrificing their children, and that God said to enslave them because of their wickedness. So you've mentioned the Egyptians. Who else was Israel commanded to enslave because of their wickedness?
Like I said, the ancient Samaritans, the Babylonians, the ancient.
Okay, let's take them one at a time. So do you know who the Samaritans were?
Well, I know who the Samaritans were.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be a dick. I just want to be clear.
They were polytheistic in nature, and they were worshiping false gods.
Okay, so let's move on. The Babylonians. So they were told to enslave the Babylonians?
The Israelites, no. They were not told to enslave the Babylonians. My point being is that there's a profound difference between the context, is what I'm referring to. Because there's a profound difference from the God of the Bible, from the ancient Greeks, the ancient Egyptians, how they view Horus. And I don't know if you've seen the Zeitgeist film where they make this awful presentation of Horus and Isis and all these Serapis, these Greek gods. And the God of the Bible, it just shows that the ancient Greeks, they were created gods of this earth. The Samaritans were created gods of this earth. The God of the Bible made the earth. So that would be my that would be the context of the 20th.
Okay, so I would say it might not be a bad idea to just sort of take a little bit of time and review the nations that are the subject of these laws of slavery, particularly in the book of Deuteronomy, where it's sort of spelled out specifically. So, the nations, the Canaanite nations, they're in the land, they were to be wiped out, right? They were to be exterminated. They were under the ban.
Okay.
But the nations surrounding that were not under the ban were sort of given the choice, right? The Israelites would kind of go knock on the gate and say, hey, or knock on the wall and say, surrender. And if they did, they were, that was cool for them. They just became corvée labor. If they put up a fight, then they were to be slaughtered and, all the other things that were supposed to happen.
Sure.
But that's what I'm asking about specifically about which nations we're talking about, because really slavery wasn't so much the option for those exceptionally wicked nations that I feel like you're describing, that the biblical text is describing. And one more thing, and then I know I keep saying that I'll mute, and then I keep coming in and talking. I'm really sorry, Skylar, but shit, by apologizing, I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, it's okay, man.
Well, I lost it. Okay, I'll mute. Go ahead.
Greeks, slavery. What was it? Slavery, ancient Greeks, Babylonians. You lost it. No, you don't got it.
The point is that
no, it's all right. I lost it. You guys go ahead. I think there was a super chat. Should I read that?
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, I was going to mention that.
It's by Mr. Cook Jr. again. $2. Skyout, you're against the ropes. Tap out, kid.
Man.
Tyler, did you want to ask me?
No, I don't know if I have another question. I'm happy to answer another one though. This is fun.
Okay.
Please, if you have more questions, yeah.
Sure. The next question would be meaning. Arrive at the reality of meaning. What meaning do we attribute to life? Are we entitled to our own definitions or meaning? Because without God, I find no ultimate reference for even morality. It's just becoming this no ultimate meaning except for whatever you want it to be. So
that's right. Yeah, we create our own meaning, our own value. That's correct.
Okay. So my point being is that you cannot measure how far someone is running if there's no standard of measurement. So I can't see how you run into that basically.
Well, yeah, we create our own value. Yeah, there's no objective value. It's just a value that we create. I love my family. I love my children. I create that value personally. There's no objective value outside of my head. Once I die, that value that I've created, that love I have for them is gone.
So you don't believe that your children will be alive with you, with God in heaven? That doesn't make sense, right?
Obviously.
Obviously not. Okay. What about all the people in the world that commit evil acts? Do they just get away with it, or?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I can get into the argument of what is actually evil, but yeah, it sucks. But what are you gonna do? Hitler died. He died. He killed 7 million Jews. There's no ultimate punishment. I mean, I don't know. It's unfortunate, I guess, to some degree. But in the end, it's just people die, and that's the end of it.
That's not quite the end of it, because I can talk about Christ, but I confess entirely. Absolutely, there is a creator of the universe, but he created it. But he's not just a force; he's a person.
I get your view. What's the question? Because I was letting you ask me some questions. I get your Christian view that you guys have all this value because of God and stuff like that. But I don't. That doesn't really have. It's just your opinion, and I can't do anything with your opinions.
No, it's fine. Do you know that we are persons created in His image? And when you say that, you haven't said it, but you probably believe that Christ rising from the dead is petty. But it deals fundamentally. What the problem is, I don't think agnosticism even deals with, and that has to do with our alienation with God. And of course,
an agnostic doesn't believe in God. They don't know if there's a God.
That makes no sense if you don't believe in God. So perhaps the best way would be start off with science and evolution, because I believe that the universe is rationally intelligible, and that the universe. Do you believe that the universe is rationally intelligible? Because I believe there's a creator God behind it. So I don't know how you account for the rational intelligibility of the universe. Now, Darwin.
I don't know what you mean by that, rational intelligibility of the universe. What does that mean?
It means that the universe is rationally intelligible because there's a creator.
No, you just that term you use, rationally intelligible. What does that mean? so I can understand your question.
That the universe is rationally intelligible in the sense that there's a creator God behind it.
No.
If I can fit.
No, but the problem is I'm asking you to explain what those terms mean, and you just repeat yourself and you say the same statement again.
It's self-explanatory. It's rationally.
No, it's not. I'm trying to and the reason I'm having this frustration with you, and I'm really trying not to make it personal. You seem like a fun guy. You don't seem like a jerk, to be honest with you. But like when I asked you a question to kind of explain what you mean, and then you repeat it now twice, like it's frustrating for the person talking to you. And I'm genuinely trying to have a good conversation with you, man. But can you just tell me what you mean by those terms so that way I can engage back with you?
Okay, what I mean by rationally intelligible. Rational means to understand. Intelligible means to know and to basically verify.
Okay, pause real quick. So you're calling that universe to understand. I'm sorry, I don't know how that applies to a universe. The word you just used to describe your terminology.
Yes, of course. Because God is existential. There's a transcendent intelligibility and intelligence. So there's a rational intelligibility in the universe. So
okay, I don't know. So basically, the question you asked me is, how do I deal with the fact there's a God? That's what you just asked me in basic terms.
I didn't say anything about that. I asked you.
You just referred to rationality and intelligibility, and then when I asked you to define those terms, you used the word God within those terms.
For me, there's a God. Yeah, absolutely. But for you,
no, but you're asking me a question. That's the point. Yeah, like you can't bring your God into the question if I don't believe in your God.
I know. How do you account for the rational intelligibility of the universe?
Well, but when you said rational intelligibility of the universe, those two terms refer to God, and I'm saying that I don't believe in your God. So I don't have to account for them.
The assumption is that you believe God actually means science. So I'm trying to.
Science doesn't prove that there's your God exists.
Say that either. I said it proves the rational intelligibility of the universe.
Okay, what does rational intelligibility of the universe mean?
It means that science and the fine tuning of the universe and the creation. And
no. Okay, now you just use fine tuning and creation, which you can't demonstrate that it's fine tuned or created in the context which you're using it from a God. You're just asserting that.
Yeah, because God exists. That's my assertion.
Yes, that's your assertion. God exists. Okay, watch this. The pink unicorn who shits ice cream on Tuesday and gives orgasms to every man on Sunday exists. How do you deal with that?
That's an offensive line of questioning. But let me go ahead.
Listen, that's how, just as crazy as that sounds to you when I say that, is how what you're saying to me sounds. I'm just trying to show you an analogy in a funny way. Sorry if it's vulgar for you, but that's how you sound to me when you make statements like that.
Well, Darwin did not explain the origin of life or the origin of the universe.
Sure, of course. That does not what evolution has.
You're saying that it came to be, the scientists and cosmologists.
I said I don't know how it all came to be. That's my answer earlier was I don't know how it all came to be. So you're straw manning me now at this point.
The scientists and cosmologists and physicists, they study it, and the very study of your own science assumes that the universe is rationally intelligible. Now,
no, not by your definition. What you're saying, no, that's not what they assume.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
Can you quote any scientist that actually says that?
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Gnosticism say that our thoughts in our mind are nothing but a mindless, unguided.
All agnosticism speaks to is the idea of a God concept, and you don't know if you're God. It doesn't speak to anything else. That's all agnosticism. It isn't a completely entire worldview. It's an aspect of a worldview.
Okay, if God does not exist, then we came from evolution. So if we came from
maybe there's something else. I don't know.
Either God created us or we came from evolution.
It's not either or. That's no. That's not either or.
What is the third option? How did humans?
I'll just give hypotheticals. Maybe aliens made us. If you want me to just say something crazy, aliens could have made us. Well, human beings now we can clone. We can clone beings. We can split atoms. Some high-tech alien race could have made us. But you have no way to demonstrate those are the only two options. That is a false thing. What you're laying out.
Okay. I can take the scriptures that are disclosed over centuries and you can see prophecy of Christ. You look at Psalms, 1,000 years prophecies of the crucifix, and immediately you see the supernatural.
Give me a specific prophecy about crucifixion.
It's in Psalms 22. You can look at Isaiah 53.
So if we could just for a second to throw my 2 cents in.
Please do.
You know, Psalm 22, Skyot, is actually pretty complicated as far as the Hebrew is concerned.
Know about it, though. It does speak about the crucifixion, does it not? Does it?
Yeah, so the Hebrew word that's used there, actually a pretty recent article, sort of spelled out the difficulties in it, but there are probably 6 different interpretations of, you know, the
Isaiah 53.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Hold on, before we throw out another one, why don't we let Dr. Josh address your first scripture?
I don't know that I would use Psalm 22 in that sense, simply because it's such a debated passage, and the idea that the word piercing there is used doesn't really stand up syntactically in the grammar. So that's all I would say about it.
And it says pierced through the hands when crucifixions were pierced through your arm, not your hands. What was the other verse? What was the other one you wanted to do with that predicted? Huh?
Isaiah 53. There's millions of not millions.
We're just gonna go through a couple one by one. I don't think there's actually millions in the Bible of prophecies. I think you're being exaggerating. Isaiah 53. What verse?
Isaiah 53. It should be right in there. It talks about the transgressions, iniquities. It should be right there.
It describes crucifixion, is what you were saying?
Yeah, he was pierced for our transgressions. You know.
Yeah, so the word pierced there just it has the idea of killing someone. It's not, you know, I mean, if you want to argue that it's like trying to describe the piercing in the side, but you know, that Hebrew word has the idea of just of killing someone.
Who's the someone? Who's the someone? He said killing someone.
Yeah, I mean, so there's no question that Isaiah 53
is a prophecy.
Well, no, I don't think it's a prophecy, but it's definitely speaking of it's like a messianic chapter, but the messianic chapter had a very immediate fulfillment, and speaking about either the writer or purportedly the writer, probably by his disciples shortly thereafter. Again, that's a very difficult passage in and of itself. I mean, I had the sea of ink that's been spilled trying to kind of parse out the context of Isaiah 53 is very, very difficult. If you're going to say, I'll say this, if you're going to say, I believe that the New Testament text is inspired, and because I believe the New Testament text is inspired and infallible, if it says that Isaiah 53 is a fulfillment, then fine. But that's a faith position, in my opinion, which is fine. I don't have a problem with somebody having that faith position, but you can't in my opinion, you can't substantiate that from Isaiah 53 itself.
Okay, remember, we were talking about it, predicting not whether there'd be a savior that died. You said crucifixion. We're specifically talking whether it talks about crucifixion, and that scripture doesn't refer to crucifixion there.
Well, there's many prophecies. In fact, Peter Stoner, a mathematician, put all the prophecies together. If you ever want to check that out.
Yeah, but we've just gone through 2 of them that you were wrong on.
How many would it take? I don't mean this but how many in your opinion? How many would it take? How many wrong prophecies would it take to sort of make you reconsider prophecy in general? Your hermeneutic or understanding of prophecy. How many?
I don't believe there's many that I could put down that I just disbelieve the prophecies of Jesus. I believe that all the prophecies are true. They came true. He died on the cross. It's historical. I don't know the Jewish historians know that he died. The Romans historians, the Sadducees and the Pharisees, all the historians know that he died. He's a historical figure.
Can you name one of those historians?
Josephus.
Okay. So 2 things. Rob, thank you for the side chat. I just said that Isaiah 53 is considered a messianic psalm, a messianic.
The live chat.
Yeah, but sorry, not you, Rob, in the side chat.
Yeah.
But like, how do you handle something like Ezekiel 26?
What is that?
Sorry, the prophecy of Ezekiel about Tyre.
Oh, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, that's not a prophecy. That actually has to do with the prophecy of Satan and how he fell. That has to do with the devil and how Lucifer was with God as a light bearer for a very long time, and then he rebelled against God and he used his free will. That the Ezekiel 26 has to do with that king, I believe. It has to do with the Satan.
Chapter 20. I think you're talking about chapter 28. 26 is where Ezekiel prophesies about Nebuchadnezzar going and destroying the island city of Tyre.
Yeah,
I know which chapter you're talking about. You're talking about 28, but no, the 2 chapters earlier about the destruction of Tyre.
Yeah, what was the question you had for me?
Sorry, Ezekiel 26. Yeah, I feel like maybe I'm a little all over the place. The prophecy in Ezekiel 26 talks about Nebuchadnezzar is going to come up against the island city of Tyre and destroy it.
Yeah, if you go back to the book of Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar, it talks about those 4 powers coming to be and how they became one. And then how those powers divided against each other in the book of Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar. So that has to do with a lot about history and hermeneutics and basically just looking at history and the time period of the audience of when it was written. And you can clearly see.
I think we probably have to separate out Ezekiel and Daniel, but the prophecy is pretty specific in Ezekiel 26. It says that Nebuchadnezzar is going to do X, Y, and Z.
Sure.
And he says 3 chapters later in chapter 29 that Nebuchadnezzar actually didn't end up doing that stuff. And so he was going to get Egypt instead as his plunder. So, I mean, obviously this is something that a lot of people, talk about, but it's a difficult chapter to wrestle with.
Okay. I'm not too sure if you're trying to relate that to Jesus Christ and his prophecy.
No, sorry. I'm just saying prophecy in Old Testament prophecy in general.
Okay.
So if, let's say for the sake of argument that you looked into Ezekiel 26 and you went, damn, okay. I think that's probably a failed prophecy. Would that bother your...
No, not at all, because as you well know, the different covenants during that time period was the covenants of the Mosaic Law. And during that time, the covenants ended and started a new promise. The old ones were obsolete. So that's God establishing covenant after covenant after covenant, and having the old covenants just made them obsolete. So that it doesn't stop God or the prophecy of Christ or the coming of the Messiah or the Nebuchadnezzar and Daniel and the powers of the wars coming to pass. So, is there any other question there?
No, I mean, I think we should probably distinguish between, the formation and fulfillment of covenants and of specific prophecies. That's all. I guess I was asking is that if you have what's considered a canonical prophet like Ezekiel, who's bringing a prophecy against the city of Tyre, and that prophecy, which ostensibly is on God's behalf,
it didn't happen.
Right, didn't happen. Does that? It doesn't sound like that causes a problem for you.
No, there's many things that didn't happen that was not according to God's will. It didn't happen on purpose. I'm not saying that God didn't know it was going to happen. I'm saying those things didn't come to pass because it was not in God's will. I mean, the prophecy that's sent there is a prophecy that was about the king of Tyre in Ezekiel. So that is not in the context of the coming Messiah. That can quickly fade away. That doesn't bring about God's glory. I mean, you can start another covenant. In fact, during that time period, they used to kill off the prophets that would come one after another, and then they would kill each and every prophet until God would spring up another covenant, until another prophet would come, until that prophecy was fulfilled by another prophet. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
All right.
All right. I'm going to ask a couple more questions, and we're probably going to get going. It's been an hour and a half.
Okay, man.
I'd like to have some free time. Are you Calvinist? Do you believe in predestination?
I am a Calvinist, yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let me ask you something then. Do you believe
You may have
that,
triggered Skylar. Sorry.
I think it's like the abomination of all freaking religions.
Oh, wow.
So you believe that God, with his decretive will, anything that ever happens here on earth is because of his decretive will?
Yeah, of course. It's
So I don't know. Every time a child gets raped, that's because God created the earth in a way that which children would get raped. Like he decreed it with his will that a child would happen to a child.
That's not in God's will now.
Well, you just said that he predestined and pre-planned everything.
Yeah, you have a different meaning of the word predestined. Your meaning is not my meaning of the word predestined.
Nope.
Predestined in the Bible doesn't mean that you're predestined to go to heaven or go to hell. Predestined means that you're predestined to love and have faith in Christ. You're predestined like you are and I am. We're predestined.
I think you're not understanding my question. No. Calvinists, maybe you don't believe this. Maybe you're not like the kind of Calvinist I'm used to dealing with. Do you believe that every action that happens by human beings on earth was predestined by God? Like it could not go any other way because God planned it out this specific way. So like me holding this can up right now is pre-planned by God, and I'm doing it because God planned for me to pick up this can.
That'd be silly.
So you don't believe it. So I think you don't really believe in Calvinism. I think you may not be a Calvinist.
No, I believe in Calvinism. I don't believe in your interpretation of Calvinism.
No, I'm just repeating what Calvinists have literally told me. Like I'm not making this up. They would call it this decretive will, that everything that ever happens is predetermined. Basically, he has planned it out in this particular way. This isn't my interpretation of it. This is what multiple Calvinists I've talked to have actually said.
Well, there's Calvinism and there's also Wesleyanism. In Calvinism, you can say that God caused a tornado to kill the 30,000 Cambodians, or you can say that Satan caused in a Wesleyan approach. So there's different approaches to Wesleyan approach and Calvinist approach. So
does God shoot? Yeah. Does God decide before you're born whether you're going to go to heaven or hell?
God predestined you to go to heaven. You choose to go to hell.
Okay. Maybe let's try to answer the question now. So, did God, the people who are going to hell, did he decide before they were even born that they would go to hell?
No.
You're not a Calvinist, bro. I hate to tell you this, but you're not a Calvinist.
Well, when you say
I don't think you know what Calvinism is.
There is
or maybe
no
like
hell.
you're a different kind of term. Huh?
No, there is no hell right now. Hell is reserved for final judgment in the last resurrection.
Yeah, no, I understand that. It's not such a stupid point to quibble over. Yes, of course, there'll be a hell later on, but it doesn't change the point of my question.
Well, if the point of your question is how come would God kill a baby Hitler? I mean, how come God?
That's not the point. That's not the point of my question about baby Hitler.
Baby Hitler lived, basically. How come God didn't send him to hell as a baby?
No. What I was asking, does God decide before you even born? Well, let me ask it this way. Does God decide who he's going to offer grace to before you're even born?
It's already yours.
You're not a Calvinist. I'm sorry, you're not a Calvinist. That's fine. I actually appreciate you're not actually a Calvinist, but you shouldn't call yourself one. You're really more Arminian. You believe in free will. Calvinists don't believe in free will. Calvinists believe that you're preordained before you're even born, whether you're going to get to go to heaven or hell.
All that's true, but you still have the capacity to go against God's will. So
I know, but you're just not a Calvinist. That's fine. I don't take issue. I actually appreciate that you're not actually a Calvinist. You just don't call yourself a Calvinist. You're better off just saying you're a Bible-believing Christian, which is good. I actually prefer that you're this way and you don't believe God preordains people. You think God can hate children? Some Calvinists will tell me that God can hate children.
Yeah, I wouldn't take all Calvinists, hyper Calvinists. There's other Calvinists. I mean, I consider myself a Reformed Baptist, which is a Calvinist, but there's a lot of crazy Calvinists out there that don't have the actual meaning of the word predestination, irresistible by grace. I mean, perseverance of the saints. The Calvinism goes way far more than just the scenario that you mentioned.
I got you, but can God hate children?
No. Why would he hate children?
I don't know. Calvinists told me that God hates children. That's okay. Well, good. You don't believe that. All right. I think we'll wrap it up. I think this has been fun. I appreciate you coming on tonight. Maybe I'll invite you on some other time. I don't know if I will, but we'll see what happens. But I appreciate you coming on and expressing your views. And You frustrate me a little.
Thank you for the conversation, Scott, man. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was something. All right, man. Have a great night. I appreciate you. Dr. Josh has far more patience than I do with this gentleman. I will say, here's what I will say. I did like him a little bit. I'm just like, he was nice enough. He was not nicer than I thought it was going to be. Right. I really thought this was going to be a complete disaster.
I mean, he did come out swinging, but he kind of mellowed a little bit.
He did. Well, I think when I kind of shut him down on the precept stuff, I think he kind of realized he doesn't have really too many legs to stand on here. And then, of course, the moral stuff, he seemed to have almost no understanding of how morality works. Yet he was so passionate about his beliefs. A lot of people watching that, 160 people, man. Hey, that was awesome, guys. Thank you for all the super chats. I'll say it this way. I'm just going to say that recently a fan of mine gave me a really cool gift that's going to help my channel. I don't know if this fan, wants to keep anonymous, but I just want to show you guys something that it's an expensive little gift. We'll say that, right? And it's going to help us through OBS to be able to control our video streams and things like that. I'll let the person be anonymous, but this particular person is a very, very generous human being, just really, really cool of them, and I appreciate them very much. And hope they're always around as they usually are. So thank you to that person. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys have really enjoyed this show. And if you guys love Dr. Josh, and who doesn't love Dr. Josh, he's got a channel called Digital Hammurabi, which, I hope it's in the description. I think I put everybody's in here. Yes, his stuff's in the description. Digital fiction stuff's and that's our Dr. Josh and I's new channel.
I think Aaron Benton is in the side chat.
Oh yeah, he's going to be here tomorrow night. I believe I forgot what time. 9:00, I think is what time I told him. I have to look at the email. I do have to say something funny. Skyout just emailed me and asked if this was recorded and if he can get a copy of the conversation. I can't. Yes, it's definitely live and recorded. Anyways, hey, if you guys like this stuff, thumbs up the video, leave a comment, share it out. Subscribe to Dr. Josh's channel, my channel. That's how we're going to grow this thing. Our goal is within 90 days. I'm being very enthusiastic that Dr. Josh and I can get to 10,000 subs on both our channels. We believe we can do it. We have a lot of people that enjoy this stuff. Let me give a little shout out to Silent Dimension over here in the chat, because he's the guy who made my cool artwork that you see with the drawing of me and the awesome beard and the hat that I use in a lot of the conversation videos now. Show that dude some love, man. He made some cool artwork for us.
And also, just a little update. Digital fiction is sitting at 374.
Only 2 videos, I think, on our 2 or 3 videos. Yeah,
we got 3. If we could get that number up as well, get it to 500.
I think we're doing something Tuesday with that. So we're going to be on Non Sequitur Show to kind of promote it and see what's up. We don't know what we're doing yet. We may be debating somebody, we may not. We'll figure that out as we go. It's a mystery. That's part of the fun, I think. I think that's it for tonight. You got anything going on tomorrow on Digital Hammurabi?
I keep forgetting what day it is. I'm putting the finishing touches on my slavery video. Ooh. So that should be good. And tomorrow, so tomorrow, Paula Gia is premiering a video that another ham and eggs video, and he graciously invited me and Megan to be characters. So looks like it's going to be really, really cool. So be sure to tune in. I think it's 7:00 Eastern Standard.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you for watching. Once again, hit that like button. And I will say, the last couple of days, I've gotten a lot of new Patreon members. A couple of them just $1, which is fine, man. If everybody on this channel donated $1 who was subscribed, man, I'd be rich. I wouldn't be rich, but I'd be happy. We would have a lot of money coming in to buy awesome equipment. So thank you guys for subscribing and watching. Until next time, hit that like button, subscribe, and make the world a better place.